Other issues that we discuss is probably the most common when it comes to smell, odor, is odor of marijuana. Right, so an officer approaches the vehicle, they claim they smell weed, they immediately want to search the vehicle. Can they do that?
The case law on this has changed recently. The short and long answer is likely yes. There is some case law out there that talks about the officers not being able to be trained. Their noses aren't going to be able to detect whether it's illegal CBD, whether it's a hemp, or whether it's a marijuana. They all smell the same. The officers are going to look to the totality of the circumstances. That leads us into kind of an additional search warrant exception, the plain view doctrine, that usually plays into what's called the automobile exception to the search warrant requirement. Usually they're going to need more than just that odor of marijuana. They're going to need to see drugs in plain view, and the plain view doctrine requires that whatever they see, it has to be immediately apparent that it's illegal. It can't be, a duffel bag and, I think that there's drugs in there, so I'm going to go in there and look for it. It has to be immediately apparent without manipulation that this is something illegal. And if the officer has that totality of the circumstances under the automobile exception to the search warrant requirement, they're going to be able to get into the car to essentially search anywhere that the illegal thing that they're looking for can be. That can be under the seats, in the gas tank. It can be anywhere in the car that illegal thing can be. In my time as a police officer in Metro Nashville, you can find drugs in the craziest places. I mean, people put them in the engine compartment, they put them in the gas tank, and as an officer, I found drugs in those places. So, once they get that probable cause under the plain view doctrine to search the car, they can look anywhere that those drugs or whatever illegal that they're looking for can be.
Yeah, I mean, an important part that you brought up is that it has to be immediately apparent, and so that's why it's so important as criminal defense attorneys to review the body cam and look at every little detail. And I'm not saying just looking at as it happens sequentially, but also to look at officers' responses. What does their face look like? What are their facial expressions? What are they talking to each other about? Because we have plenty of cases where you look at an officer's response and, they look in the window and then they don't immediately put the person in handcuffs because they just immediately see what looks like an illegal drug. Instead, they open the car, they look at it, they confirm, and then they arrest the client. Well, if they have to open the vehicle, confirm, and then arrest instead of arresting when it's immediately apparent, we have a pretty strong argument as a defense attorney to be very strategic in our cross-examination to basically trap the officer into answering certain questions to where at that point they're going to have to answer it wasn't immediately apparent. And so that's why it's so important to spend a lot of time as a defense attorney in reviewing the body cam, but also preparing our cross-examinations to set essentially traps to where the officer has no choice but to answer yes to a lot of very simple questions. And that leads to us getting the response that they didn't have the right to search that vehicle or search that house.